about your first time, your first, or maybe your favorite. So we're going to start off with Lydia, Toastmaster Lydia Devia. Tell us about your favorite or first toy.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First, toy. I never had a real toy, or make-believe toys. Toys that were given to me by elders, found on the street, made up by my parents, and those were my first toys. I'd like to express my parents as an accolade for being so creative when you think about the things that are made out of necessity. So those were my first toys, and I haven't realized it.
Tell us about your first friend, Toastmaster Karen Raymore.
Good morning, Toastmasters, distinguished and guests.
Morning.
So my first friend, I grew up in Littleton, Colorado, right outside of Denver. My first friend was Nancy Roush. She lived 2 doors down from me, and she was an amazing friend. We had the clotheslines in the backyard with the peepholes, and we loved to swing on those. I, unfortunately, am known to be accident-prone, so I swung out to see who could jump the farthest, and I broke my arm. Cast got off. 2 weeks later, did the same thing. That time on the way to the hospital, my mom spanked me because she told me never to play on that clothesline again.
So tell us about, after you were kicked out of the nest, tell us about your first home, whether it be a rental home or a first purchased home. Tell us about your first home, Toastmaster Rebecca Eggleton.
Morning. My first home, so after I graduated from college, I knew that I did not want to go back to my hometown, which was Rochester, New York. I was tired of the cold, so I went to San Diego, and I was fortunate enough to go with my best friend from college. So we were roommates in college. We decided to become roommates in San Diego, and we rented an apartment, which turned out to be with our other roommates' good friends. So we ended up landing in an apartment that was all set up, fantastic, and our friend showed us all the ropes of San Diego. She knew all the bars to go to. She was amazing. So I landed in a great place on my first home.
All right, we're going to switch it just slightly to tell us about your first child, Toastmaster Bonnie Patterson.
My first child. Okay. My first child is Andre. Andre is 22 years old. He is 6'2". He's an artist. He's a rapper. He's just like his mom. He can't pick what he wants to do. He loves doing everything so much. And I remember the day that he was born. I was watching 90210 in the hospital bed, waiting for my contractions to start. I had an epidural, so I couldn't feel anything. And then they told me it was time. So I started getting to work, and it happened faster than I could ever imagine. I was so blessed. And when they put him on my lap, I remember talking like a crazy person. I was like, he's so pretty. This is the best gift you ever gave me, God. I looked like a woman. So that was the day that I brought Andre Williams into the world.
Toastmaster Bonnie. We are moving on to, I'm sorry, Jay, I'm just going to do it anyways. Tell us, how does it feel to be debt-free for the first time? Toastmaster Jay Shaw.
Hello, Toastmasters. Good morning. To be debt-free is a luxury for many people who are of my generation. and maybe not so much of a luxury for people who are of older generations before college was as mainstream, before it cost as much, before there were loans from the government, from the bank, from this guy, from that guy, and from this company mailing you and all this. I want to tell you a special story about how I became partially debt-free. I went to the University of Florida, and I ended up with $13,600 in federal debt. That's it. And I had about as much in hand. Now, what happened shortly after I graduated, my mother walked up and gave me a check for $6,800. She said, I want you to have half from me. She wanted me to live debt-free and to be free as a bird, so I can go and do whatever it is I'm going to do, collect whatever accolades I'm going to collect, and be a free bird that I've always been meant to be. Thank you.
Tell us about your favorite vacation, Toastmaster Gio Riviera.
Favorite vacation? There are so many to pick from. One that comes to mind, my favorite time was a Mediterranean cruise. And the Mediterranean cruise started in Italy, and it also went to the Greek islands. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. I got to see one of my favorite places in the world, Santorini, Greece. It's that beauty you see with the blue roofs and the white buildings. It was fantastic. I loved it. The food was amazing. The people were great. The views were amazing. The ocean. I wanted to stay, and I would honestly come back. I wish it would be an accolade of mine to go and spend a month there. So I recommend Santorini, Greece, and Mediterranean cruise.
Tell us about cruising, Toastmaster Lonnie Powell.
Good morning, Toastmasters. Good morning. How ironic, I just started a job booking cruise packages. So, to get a topic about cruising, quite needed so much accolades to Tim. So, I have a few stories to tell real quick. So, me and my wife went on a cruise. I think it was our first cruise. Have you ever gone parasailing? Do you know what it is? Yeah, so it's a little scary. So we went on a little boat in the Bahamas. And I got seasick, actually. I ate too much for breakfast. Tons of amazing food on cruises. Gourmet galore. And so I got sick before, and then I went up. And then actually I was in awe of the scenery, and I was freaking my wife out taking pictures. Then another cruise, we went snorkeling in the Bahamas. We got fish food, and I put the goggles on. Fish food fell in the ocean, and I went, I thought I was going to get bit by the fish or a shark. And another cruise was awesome because we had the chef's table. I believe it was with Carnival. So you'd have like 8 to 10 people that you did dinner with. The chef comes out, each course, with wine, and so forth. It was amazing. And to say I cut myself off, just like now.
How about your first or favorite car? Distinguished, no, actually, no, scratch that. Forget it. How about your first or favorite car, Toastmaster Tim Taylor?
1976, Mustang decided, Ford built the Ford Mustang, they decided to come out with the Mustang 2. Who remembers the Mustang 2? If you're a Mustang aficionado, you hate the Mustang 2. However, they came out with a black one with gold stripes. It had a spoiler, it had a fin on the back, and it was beautiful, and it was black. And I bought that car as my very first car. I was 16 years old. I made every car payment myself. I was going to high school. I was working after school. It was $113.03. I'll never forget that. My dad said, "You want a car?" "Sure, Dad, thanks." We went down, we got the car, and he handed me the payment book. He said, "Your son, you're making all the payments." But you know what? That helped me start my own business. I learned how to be responsible. The biggest mistake I made, though, was gas had gone to 60 cents a gallon. Heaven forbid. And so I did not put an air conditioner in that car because it cut the gas mileage. My older brother taught me into that. I drove around in that hot car until I got married. The speedometer would have broken 100,000 miles, so I have no idea how many you have. But if you live in a warm climate, please put an air conditioner in your car. Thank you.
All right, think way back to one of your very first jobs. What was your hourly wage and how did that make you feel? Toastmaster Mark Ayler.
Good morning. One of my first jobs was in the maintenance department at a company called Brown's Road. They made lift trucks, they still do, and worked in the summertime. And we did all the painting and kind of maintenance work that running for college guys. We really had a great time, actually. But at the time, it was my real first job where I got a paycheck. And my hourly wage was $3.15. And I thought I was like living the high life. I was like, I'd get that check on a Friday, go to the bank, and then I'd be out to the bars, and it was like, wow. It was really cool. So that was my first check, my first payday, and probably my favorite one. So that's my deal.
Go way back to your very first speech at Toastmasters. In fact, your first speech ever. Carlos Benitez, Toastmasters.
Ready to go. Before we start, can you take 10 seconds, everybody look around, I'm missing my phone.
You as well.
Friends, Romans, give me your accolades.
What?
Work in a tangible, symbolic manner. What was the question?
First speech. Give us a speech.
My first speech. Panic ensued. No, I gave a lot of talks in the military. They were impromptu talks, just like these table topics. You get picked. I went to OCS, and you had to be in a leadership role. So you got up in front of people and commanded them and told them what you had to do, some things, plans that we had to take, how the attack was going to occur, how we were going to defend your position. You had to elaborate, use examples, 8 points, summarize, introductions, and red lights means you're out.
Tell us about one of your first dates, or your favorite date. Distinguished Toastmaster Carmelo Bellardo III.
Still waiting for that.
It was 5th grade or 6th grade, 4th grade. PS60, Woodhaven School, Queens, New York. We'd have recess after lunch, and if it was raining outside, no recess, we'd go to the auditorium and watch the old Mickey Mouse cartoons in black and white. Anybody remember those? The French Legion. Think about that. Those were the good old days, not like today's cartoons. There was Tina Margino, Barbara Santoro. Tina Margino. Oh, Nancy Vonderland. That's what. That's a big smile for that name. Give it a minute. Yes, yeah, we made out. And Billy Beats was my friend, and we would exchange girls. I don't know. We didn't use tongues though. Tell us about your first career or your first job, Toastmaster Benjamin.
Good morning, folks. Well, my first job, I think that was when I was in college.
Wow.
I was making $8.25 an hour. Can you imagine? Now it's about $15, 10 times as much. And I remember that my assignment here was to clean the plugs that went into the soil in the engineering department. And that was my first job. I really enjoyed it because there's so much thinking to do. So that was so good. And then, at the end of the day, I have to fill out the card and say how many hours I have worked. And my paycheck for the time. At the time that a hamburger was something like 20 cents, not that bad. So it was enjoyable, and also I learned that you have to be on time, you have to be precise, you have to obey your instructions, and that permeated my career throughout the following years when I became a graduate and some subsequent jobs. Also very good, and I want some good accolades.
Tell us about your first tricycle or bicycle, Toastmaster Mark Wright.
That's good, tricycle.
Probably, let's say 1980. You've ever heard of a green machine?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So it is a three-wheeled contraption, green of course, belonged to my sister at the time. I was a little bit young, so I decided to take it for a spin. I was always jealous of her green machine. It was the envy of the neighborhood, and I took it for a spin. And crashed it into my parents' car. Oh. Cracked a wheel, and it has since been a debate in my family as to whether or not I had permission to take that green machine or not. I did not. And I'd say every other Thanksgiving, I still hear about the green machine fiasco of 1980.
Tell us about one of your very first memories when you were very young as a child, Toastmaster, future Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Kathy Levitt.
Oh, my very first memory. I think I should give accolade to my brain because I remember something that my mother was surprised that I even remembered because I was maybe 4 or something like that. It's when we went to Canada to get our papers because so we're Haitian and we came up, and to get your green card at the time, you'd have to leave, so we went to Canada. And I just remember being in a hotel room with another lady that we didn't know because they put us up there at the hotel. And I just have a vague remember of something about in a closet and that I was scared about it. So that was my earliest memory I can remember of anything.
I have 2 more. We're going to go with your very first road trip. Toastmaster Damien Fontre.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
First, I want to tell you about the morning. I found myself sitting in bed, dreading table topics. I even thought about trying to slide into the thinker spot last minute to get out of it. I told myself, I said, nope, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do table topics, you're gonna get all the accolades. Yeah.
All right.
And then he gave me this topic. So I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and my first road trip, I think I went to Biloxi, Mississippi. Big whoop. It was 45 minutes away. That's where my dad lived. There's not a whole lot to do for a teenager in Biloxi, Mississippi. So we went to the beach, hung out for a little bit, but I was more excited that I got to drive 45 minutes by myself. Thank you.
Quickly, tell us about your first or your favorite New Year's Eve Toastmaster. Sean Tucker.
Sean.
It was in the 70s. I was a kid. I wasn't old enough to drink yet. But my oldest brother, Billy, was in the 82nd Airborne. He was stationed in Hawaii. Now, my dad is not a talker. He's an introvert extraordinaire. He doesn't talk, well, he died last year, but he didn't talk to anybody, ever. And he never used the phone, ever. New Year's Eve, he had a few too many Jack Daniels. He wasn't a regular drinker, but when he drank, he had a few too many. And he decided, I'm going to call my son, gosh darn it. And this is back in the rotary dial days, and Hawaii is about 400 dials. Yeah. And he finally gets to Billy's roommate, and Billy's out of town, or he's out on a mission out in the woods in Australia somewhere, but his roommate knows that my dad never calls, or my family never calls, so he panics and thinks that there's an emergency, and he calls the base, and they radio in that phone to the base, to Australia, to the woods, to my brother in the tent. Wow. Dad, what's happening? What's going on? I just wanted to talk. Anyway, that was my favorite New Year's Eve. I still laugh about it.